my name is McKenna, and today I want to talk to you about a book called Tribal: How the Cultural Instincts That Divide Us Can Help Bring Us Together by Michael Morris. I've really been interested in psychology and learning different perspectives as a social worker, as someone that works with international students. The book Tribal really felt like a book that I should read. So Michael Morris has a lot of credentials. I really like to look at the credentials of the authors I'm reading and not, I don't want it to just be some like life coach that, well, I lived in 3 countries, so therefore I have the knowledge. Like, no, I would prefer you actually are educated on it and have done some research or studies and things like that. And Michael Morris, I think, taught for like 10 years at Stanford. He has a degree from Brown. He got his PhD from Michigan. He teaches or got another degree, or teaches at Columbia, whatever it is. So he's been around in higher education, higher academia, and so I really trust him and his perspectives on how peer influence and peer tribal instincts and all that stuff works together, and how we can use it to kind of make changes in a time where there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of clashing and a lot of issues, right? Like the world is just a mess right now. And so I think that this book comes at a perfect time to kind of help remind us of how we can work together. So I have a couple takeaways, so we'll jump right into my first takeaway, which I have to read off the screen because I returned the book to the library. So it's this: our sensitivity to information about peer patterns is typically portrayed as a bug rather than a feature, but it's a foundation of culture and of cultural evolution. So what he's talking about is peer patterns that influence us. Why do we follow what our peers say? Why does peer pressure work, and how can we use it to help each other and help make change and create change? One of the things he mentioned was that we shouldn't emphasize what somebody is not doing, but emphasize what they are doing. And he gives a couple examples, and I wish I had my book in front of me, but I think he gives an example about preserving energy, which I thought was interesting because it's not so much focusing on telling somebody, if you have like a solicitor go to your door and you're like, oh, right now your neighbors are paying for energy saving stuff and they're saving the environment, but you aren't. Well, that's gonna be like, okay, well, my neighbors are doing it, so why would I? Like that peer pattern, that influence is telling you that, well, other people they've got you covered, so you don't really need to focus on that. That's not really your problem. What he's saying is that we need to work on really calling attention to issues by telling people what they are doing, what they can be doing. So by telling someone, hey, if you sign up to help save energy and to do these things, you are saving 25% of whatever. You are reserving energy and saving water and helping the environment. And people are like, oh, I'm doing that. Like, that's me. Like, I'm doing that. That's awesome. And they're more likely to do that. He mentions his political affiliations and how those are something that has helped give him a lot of perspective, because if we think of political issues right now in the world, we're thinking of 100 different things, right? And there's so much of it, and he really says it's more than just this side versus that side, and we can work together to influence each other, to understand the other side, and how in cultural evolution and psychology with cultural perspectives, we aren't alone. There's like, we often feel like we're on little islands here and there, and we're not. And so we can really reach out to each other and work together. Which brings me to my second main takeaway, which is tribal lines can be redrawn. We're in these little islands, we're on our own little tribe. And he says, that we can really work together to be inclusive of each other. So we don't have to focus on, well, the people in this tribe only do this or whatever. They don't like to eat together, and the people in this tribe, like, we have to have dinner together, so therefore, like, that's too bad. He mentioned a cultural festival in I forget the name of the country, but where they work together with Muslims and Christians to have a festival that kind of incorporates both of these cultures and their traditions, which I thought was interesting because I don't think you see a lot of that. And he said that he gave statistics and research and case studies about how this country has actually really eased their tensions, their cultural tensions, and they've made it work. Like, these festivals are really well received, and it's because they tie in so many different rituals from these different cultures, and how we can take better care to look at other people and consider their rituals, consider what they do, consider what matters to them, their value, and redraw that tribal line. So it's not so split, and it's more like, no, we're working together, and we can use that redrawing of the tribal line to help fix cultural issues and social issues, which as a social worker especially, I think is really valuable. I think also working with kids from international, different cultures, looking at it and, hey, how can we redraw the line? Let's erase the roommate conflict. Like, you value this, how can we balance that and work together. So I thought that was really good. The third takeaway I have is that we should never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. This is a quote by very famous anthropologist Margaret Mead. You know, he talks a lot about how people assume change nowadays in this modern social change world has to be bottom up. It has to be small grassroots organizations in the community that are working together to go fight injustice and create this change. And he's like, sometimes that works, wonderful. Sometimes it doesn't. There are examples of like governments stepping in and saying, hey, you can't smoke in bars. I think Chicago, he mentions how there's this issue with smoking in bars, and Chicago just said, nope, no more of that. And their citizens actually were like, thank you. Actually, thank you. You know, there was little grassroots organizations maybe involved, but the government really stepped in and said no. So that's a top-down change. And I think that people are really scared right now of relying on government, which is extremely understandable. But there is still ways that we can utilize our government and trust them to have actions and change. And there are the right people in government in certain areas, and we can learn to reach out to those people, trust those people, and help create change from top down. He does also mention though bottom up change and how there's executive managers at GM that said, hey, dress code, you middleman managers need to help your employees figure that out. So they just kind of said, we want a dress code, but like you guys figure it out, and you are allowed to, as the bottom, I guess, of the company, use your own creative powers and figure that out. And it worked a lot better than GM executive management saying, hey, everyone's gonna wear business casual in these 3 colors that goes with our brand. The last takeaway I have is based on this quote. He says, threats to tribal continuity can trigger ugly intolerance. However, they can also summon great acts of sacrifice and collective resolve. He talks about 3 different tribal triggers, which I'll just name, but I won't go into detail. I'll encourage you to read the book to learn more about them. It's the call of traditions in times of ceremony and threat, the aspiration to heroic contributions inspired by symbols and audiences, and the empowering impulse to coordinate as a united front spurred by peers and time pressure. I will talk about that last one because he mentions the Me Too movement. Now, oftentimes I think the Me Too movement is really given a bad, it's talked about really negatively, which is not good. But he talks about it, you know, saying that it's an inspiration and it's an example of that last call to tribal threat, which is the empowering impulse to coordinate as a united front, spurred by peers and time pressure, right? So there's a prevalent signal there that's happening, which is information about what people say, what they're doing, is influencing other people, their tribal signal. I can say something. You know, there's a norm of silence that's replaced by this outspoken activism, which is seen in the Me Too movement. That is an example of a tribe, you know, of different people working together to say, hey, listen, we need to stop this culture. This is really negative. This is not good for society. And they're doing a bottom-up change, and it's awesome. That's something that's really good to see. And I think that he was kind of mentioning that movement, not only because it was a really great movement and like a wonderful mode of activism, but also because it's something that we can look to for an example of what we can be doing and what we're capable of. People forget just how capable of change we are as a society. And I think looking at movements, looking at history, looking at different cultures, he names dozens of case studies and examples of countries that have ceremonies together, rituals together, of soccer teams that work together, that suddenly you're having Muslim and Christian players totally be best friends and integrate with each other. Just different ways to do that, different things to think about when we're looking at how do we ease that tension and conflict in the world. Obviously, we can't do it on our own. And like Margaret Mead said, you know, a small group of people can make a significant change. And we can work together. We can use our numbers and work together and look at how in the past these tribal lines have been redrawn and just use it. And I think it's an awesome book to really make you inspired to create change and look at the people around you and look at the differences and say, no, I like the differences. Let's bring it on. Let's work together. Let's collaborate. And let's not see the differences as a negative thing, as a bug, but see it as a feature. You know, like these are really good, awesome things that people have and qualities that groups have, and we can help support them and amplify them and use that stuff to create change in a world that is so tribal and so separated. So I thought it was a great read. I would say it's like 4 stars. So yeah, I encourage you to pick it up.